Okay, so I don't know how long this series is going to end up taking. It's June 28th, 2024 right now as I write these very words, so I guess we'll see when this LittleBigPlanet series ends. This is a video about a game that was incredibly successful, popular, and critically successful, but was forgotten by its owner and left to die. This is a video about LittleBigPlanet. The LittleBigPlanet franchise as of today features 3 mainline games and 6 spin-offs, making 9 in total. So let's go back to where it started, LittleBigPlanet 1. The year is 2005, and a theatre showing of the movie Howl's Moving Castle just ended. 2 of the people in this screening were Dave Smith and Mark Healy, who were 2 developers working at Lionhead Studios. They had previously worked on a game called Ragdoll Kung Fu, a fighting game which released back on October 12, 2005. After they left the cinema, the 2 discussed the idea of developing a new game with physics similar to Ragdoll Kung Fu. The 2 would then leave Lionhead Studios in December of 2005, along with 2 other people, Karima Tooney and Alex Evans, and formed a new company known as Brain Fluff, which is better known as what it was later changed to, Media Molecule. Their goal was to create a console game that had a large focus on user-generated content, and with this being 2005 and the prospect of the internet being used on games consoles being a thing, this was a revolutionary idea. The company arranged a meeting with Phil Harrison, who was the president of Sony Computer Entertainment Worldwide Studios at the time. They created a very early prototype of the game called Craft World. And this is what it looked like. So yeah, I mean, not exactly LittleBigPlanet yet. The game was just a simple demo starring this guy called Yellowhead, and basically just showed off the physics. Also, it's in 2D unlike the final game, which is like 2.5D. D's nuts. Also, Yellowhead ended up being a playable skin in the final game if you beat the last level without dying. This skin took so damn long to get, I swear. They pitched this demo to Harrison in January of 2006. For the pitch, they had chosen to tone down the creative aspect as they feared that Harrison wouldn't be a big fan of it. They were entirely wrong on this, and Harrison wanted to know more about the creative aspect and was intrigued by it. This meeting that was intended to last 45 minutes went on for 3 hours, until it concluded with Sony agreeing to fund the game for 6 months. They later presented what they had worked on, and Sony was impressed, so agreed to fund the game in exchange for it being a PlayStation exclusive title, and Sony owning the property. During development, Sackboy was originally called a Sackling, and went through many designs until he ended up as the one we have today. Thank Christ. 5 months into development, when the game was still called Craft World, this video was made, which is a pre-rendered video showcasing what the game would be like, and the pod actually travels into levels in this. Also, this is just eerie, like the narration,
as you will see, it is a place of infinite magic.
Paired with the quality of this footage and like the darkness, no thank you, no. This early demo is actually pretty similar to the final game. I mean, granted, everything looks really different, but you know, the idea is there. The pod has a basement for custom levels though, so that's different. There's also this later beta version, which is also in terrible quality. This is actually playable and not just a cutscene. In this version, bubbles are sponges. It also shows that in Create Mode there was originally going to be this toolbar thing to control everything. You had to equip stuff like a jetpack to fly instead of just being able to do it. I'm glad they changed this because, oh my Christ, that would be so tedious to have to pick the cut tool from over here to cut an object. I'm glad they changed that. Later, LittleBigPlanet had its first presentation at the Game Developers Conference 2007, in which another demo of the game was demonstrated. This demo had way more layers too. That's essentially my small conclusion of the development. If you want a more in-depth video about LBP's development, watch the Beta 64 video. It discusses more things. There's also this proof of concept animation that was made to show how 2D physics could work in a 3D world, and I didn't know where to fit it in, but here it is. Then, after all this development, the game was set to release in early 2008, before being delayed until September 2008, and then pushed again to its final release date of the 21st of October 2008. But it wasn't exactly a smooth release. You see, just 4 days prior, it was discovered that the in-game song, how do you pronounce that? Tafanyong, contain expressions from the Quran, and so many copies of the game had to be recalled to have the song be altered to not feature those lyrics. Then the game had to be sent back out just in time for its October 21st release date. The game was an immediate success, having sold a whopping 1.3 million copies by January 2009, and by July of that same year, 1 million levels had been published. It won a ton of awards that I'm not reading, but here's a list, and got a 95 out of 100 on Metacritic. This game had a huge fan base now, but what was the actual game like? When opening the game, the first thing you'll be greeted with is this intro, which shows that LittleBigPlanet is created by the ideas of people. You'll then be thrown into this intro level, which teaches you their basic controls as well as showcasing the developers of the game. What the f? Then once it's over, you're brought to your pod, which serves as a hub. It's also entirely customizable, like everything else in this game. Once you use the PS3 controller, you'll be shown 3 moves: the info moon, the craft world, and my moon. Also, the pod actually moves around the planet. I don't know why, but I always thought the planets moved, but like, we're in a spaceship, why would the planet be the thing moving? I'm dumb. The info moon allows you to access online information, things like your profile, your statistics, and your pictures. My moon is the moon which houses all the levels which you create. If you open a my moon level, you'll be greeted by a blank canvas which you can essentially build whatever you want with. The only limit being the thermometer, which when full will stop you from being able to build any more things in your level. Also, I guess your imagination too, that's also a limit. You can, or rather could because the server shut down in 2021, RIP, publish your levels online for other little Slack folk to play. At the peak of LBP's popularity, there were millions of levels available to be played. I mean, a good 100,000 of them were just Shark Attack, Mortal Kombat, or Bomb Survival, but still, there was some good stuff in there somewhere, like the iconic Kill Justin Bieber level. The best footage I could find of this is in like 240p and was uploaded by Jamaican Cheeseburger. All these levels, when you think about it, are also canon to the LBP universe, and the final moon is the Craft World, which houses the story mode and user levels, along with DLC. So first, let's look at the story mode, and I'm gonna be honest here, the story itself isn't this game's strong point. I didn't even know what the game's story was as a kid, and I beat it like 5 times. The story seems like its only purpose is to give some kind of reason as to why you're in these levels. I'm just going to read it word for word from the wiki because look how long the section is. This is the story. Throughout the magical land of LittleBigPlanet, the sinister collector is stealing characters and their creations. It's up to Sackboy to stop him and rescue the creators. So we start off in the gardens, which is set in England. And that's why its icon is on England on the map. The garden serves as a basic few levels to make the player familiar with the game. Being the first world game, it's very easy. Some notable characters are the King and Queen, who help to guide Sackboy through the levels. The next world is the Savannah, which is based off of Africa. And how do we get here? Well, the King is just like, alright, you've got to meet 7 creators, so go find the next one. And that's basically the reason given for us having to go to these seemingly random locations. So we're sent away in a submarine that just shows up in the savannah, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's believed that the scrapped English seaside world would have come next since we're in England and, you know, seaside and sea and submarines would be there. It all makes sense. But when that was cut, I guess they just kept it and had the submarine launch into the ground. Anyway, we go through the savannah and the difficulty of the levels, obviously, has slightly increased from the gardens. In the savannah, we break one of Zola's creations, and are then told to go see Zola themselves. So he does, and Zola agrees to forgive us if we can find out what's startling the buffalo, and that turns out to be crocodiles. The king crocodile reveals to Sackboy that a meerkat mum is alleging that a crocodile ate her son. So Sackboy goes to find the meerkat son, and everyone is happy again. Wholesome chunga. Then we leave and go to the wedding, which is based off of Mexico, and specifically the Mexican holiday, the Day of the Dead. So Frida, who is Le Bride of the wedding, asks us to find Don Lu, her groom, because he went into the darkness. Frida thinks Don Lu up and dipped and skedaddled away without her, but turns out he got lost. So she goes on a rampage with the Skulldozer. Anyway, then Don Lu explains a misunderstanding and they go off on their honeymoon, which takes place in our next world, the Canyons, also based off of Mexico, and also based off the Aztec Empire, where Devante asks us to free Uncle Jalapeno from the evil sheriff Zapata. So we do, and Zapata goes off to the mines, so we team up with Uncle Jalapeno and chase him to the Serpent Shrine, where we have a little battle until Zapata dies. Rip bro. Now after this, Uncle Jalapeno decides to have a vacation in our next world, the Metropolis, based off the US of A. When we arrive in the Metropolis, Max tells Uncle Jalapeno that his car sucks, and that she'll get a better car for him. The dude, fire-ass name, steals it and crashes it into the sewer, so we have to go down to Subway, or rather, the Subway, to get it back. The dude vandalizes Mag's construction site, which, like I mean uncalled for, so we defeat him in an epic battle, and he sends us to the islands, on a private plane as an apology. How nice. Now we're at the islands, based off Japan, where Grandmaster Sensei trains us to defeat the terrible Oni. We go to Sensei's stolen castle and defeat the evil sumo, then free the flame-throwing cat. Then Grandmaster Sensei guides us over to the terrible Oni's volcano, where we are held by the flame-throwing cat to defeat the terrible Oni. After this, Grandmaster Sensei suggests Sackboy to go to the temples to buy a flame-throwing cat. The temple is our 7th land and is based off of India. As soon as we get there, we find the shopkeeper who tells us to travel to the goddess. She then tells Sackboy to see the great magician. So we go see them and they say to meet them later because they have something important to tell us. Later he informs us that the collector is stealing everyone's creations. Oh no. This is actually the first mention of the collector, who is the main villain of the game. They've appeared in the background, but they actually haven't been mentioned until the 7th land. This takes us to the 8th land, the wilderness, based off Russia, where we have to break into a military base. The ending of LittleBigPlanet has Sackboy break into a Russian military base. We eventually arrive at the collector's lair and have to go through the worst level in any game ever. Screw this. And all the friends we've met along the way are locked up by the collector. So we free them all from the cages, defeat these robots, and the collector runs away crying because he just wanted his creations to be loved. The king says he can be accepted, and we get a wholesome Chungus ending. I didn't know any of that before I read it off the LittleBigPlanet wiki. I mean, the story was told through text bubbles, and not gonna lie, I ain't reading all that. I'll just skip it to play the actual game. And I still enjoyed it without knowing what was happening. This game has a great story mode that has a good, fair difficulty increase. It's got a lot of replayability because even when you're done, you can still go back and beat the levels without dying to get more prizes, and it tells you how many of the prizes in the level you've collected, so you can get them all. And something about this just makes me want to actually 100% every level. Like, I haven't done it yet, but I swear to God I will. Oh yeah, maybe I can't because there's these parts where you need 2, 3, or even 4 players to complete a challenge and get more prizes, and I don't know if I'd know 3 people who play LittleBigPlanet with me. But I do own 4 controllers, so I do try to do these, but it's a nightmare, especially with the 4-player ones, like, Jesus Christ. But it's all worth it for some stickers I'm not gonna use. In fact, I'm probably not gonna use most of this stuff, I just want it for that badge on the level, because that's cool, and it's cool to own all this stuff. Now, selling the game is just a story mode, that's already a cracking deal. You could play this for weeks just trying to 100% it, and that's without the create mode, which is like the main selling point of the game. And you can make your own levels, just make whatever you want to play, and then you can share it and others can play it, and people made some incredible stuff. People genuinely took hours to make some of these insanely good levels. So naturally most of the top levels were Shark Attack, Bomb Survival, or copy-paste of the same Mortal Kombat level that has a shitty mic recording of Sexy and I Know It as the background music.
I'm sexy and I know it.
This is the most popular level on the game. I spent hours on this. I mean, Bomb Survival is cool, but like they're all the same. Just because it's Angry Bird Bomb Survival doesn't change it. Now there's just Angry Birds in the background. And you have to play the story mode to get materials to make levels, so this game's a great deal. Not only do you have the amazing story mode, there's also infinite levels to play forever. Well, like millions, but that's basically infinite because, I mean, you can't play all those levels. And on top of all this, there's the DLC. They released a ton of DLC for this game. Costumes, materials, levels, some original, some in collaboration with other brands, like they had Marvel and Metal Gear Solid levels, and I mean, why wouldn't they? That's just more money, and that's always good. You don't need a business degree to know that. It also adds brand new stuff to the game for players to make levels with. Naturally, this game formed a huge community where people shared their creations. Just like in the game's universe. I used to watch all these YouTube videos about content you can get from levels, or glitches you can do in game, or cool skins you can get for free from levels. I remember specifically watching a lot of Glitchmaster 7 because they'd always show off glitches and free prizes. Oh, and I can't forget to talk about the Game of the Year edition. Look at all this stuff it comes with. Metal Gear Solid 6 levels, 5 costumes, plus new stickers and toys, 8 additional costumes, 18 exclusive bonus levels. Okay, Lois, this is freaking sweet. I've also got to mention the music in this game. It is perfect. I think this game has the best atmosphere in the franchise. I'd play some of the best ones, but they're licensed tracks and I like money. There's also a speedrunning community for this game, which, not gonna lie, I have huge respect for any LBP speedrunners, because that seems super hard. Like, if you die in one of these 25 levels, you're screwed. It's actually Jova. So it must be super hard. This speedrunning community still exists today, and this game came out in 2008, which is like ancient. It was so cool. The game kept itself alive because of the community. Media Molecule didn't have to constantly update it to keep it alive because the community would always be adding new levels. But eventually, Media Molecule went to add a bunch more stuff to the game. So much that they couldn't just fit it into a DLC pack, and they decided to make a whole new game. Later on, the second game in the franchise would be released, and it was called LittleBigPlanet PSP. You thought I was going to say LittleBigPlanet 2. Well, you were mistaken. I've bamboozled you. We have to talk about the PSP spin-off. I mean, Media Molecule was still cooking up LittleBigPlanet 2, but still. Like and subscribe with notifications on for a notification when that video comes out, or if it's already out, watch it here. Bye.